You're tuned in to Women in America, the podcast that dives deep into the issues shaping gender equality in the US and beyond. Hosted by Pari and Eve, public health professionals by day and content creators by passion, we bring you expert insights and actionable strategies to push the fight for equality forward in today's America. On this episode, we speak with Jessica Craven on how the government is creating death panels by using AI to process Medicare claims. Let's dive in.
It's very important in this time to have community.
Yeah, it really is. It's everything. It's the difference between survival and not. Just getting out and being with the people you love and admire.
So speaking of community, you and I have been in community for like probably 2 years now, because I feel like the first time we met was you were here for like a Roe v. Wade anniversary with the Senator Patty Murray.
Patty
right?
Murray. Yeah. Patty Murray's office invited me to come in and cover the Senate Help Committee meeting, where they were talking about the fall of Roe and sort of eroding abortion rights. And I met you, and I met another content creator whose name is escaping me right now. And yeah, we covered that whole thing. And it was really fun, actually. I mean, the subject matter is not fun, but it was so fun. And you introduced me to my favorite restaurant in DC, too, which
it
is
was
still
fun
my
to
favorite
be in community. And I wish I remember who that other creator was, but because this was like 2 years ago, that's like a lifetime ago. And I have no recollection of who else was there.
Yeah. She does the abortion, she does the great whiteboard videos and the abortion cards.
Alex.
Yes, Alex.
I've not spoken to her in a while either. So maybe I need to go live with her.
Yeah.
So we know each other through that. But for our viewers and listeners, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes.
I feel like you're the one and only, but please go ahead.
I mean, I don't know about that. Hi, everybody. I'm Jessica Craven. I am a Substack author. I have a Substack called Chopwood Carry Water, which is a daily actions newsletter that's been going out 5 or 6 days a week since 2016, which is why the big circles under my eyes. And I'm also a content creator. So I make a lot of videos, and I also have a podcast called The Practivist Pod. So all of those things. And I'm the proud mom to a trans teenager. So yeah, that's who I am. And I'm very, very happy to be here with you, Eve.
I did not know you had a podcast, so I'm glad you plugged that.
Yeah, I do. I do it with my friend Steve Pearson, who's also an activist. And we just talk about politics, the politics of the week, and like how people can get involved. We really try to focus on how people can be engaged.
So I have a 2-hour drive tomorrow, so I know what I'll be doing in the car. I'm going to be listening. So speaking of things people can get engaged with, I saw a post you did recently, which has led to us doing this live, because you did a post on something that hadn't actually caught my attention in the news yet, which was about how they were going to start using AI like clearance processes for Medicare.
Yes.
And I noticed that you use the term death panel, which is like really a fitting way to describe it. But I wanted to just chat more with you about what this actually was, and thought you'd be the best person to go to since you had already done all the research on it. And I thought other people might want to hear about this too. So what the hell is going on with Medicare, and why are there death panels?
Yeah, so first of all, I will just say that the great thing about being a content creator is that when I do one of these videos where I like explain it and sort of explain the backstory, I am then very well-versed, which is really nice, because then I can come on and do things like this because I've already spent this time doing this deep dive. So, and I want to give some credit to Dan Pfeiffer, who, of course, is Crooked Media. Dan Pfeiffer's got a great Substack about messaging called The Message Box. I had heard about this a little bit, and he was the one who sort of flagged the death panel name and really suggested that would be a good way to refer to it, first of all, because it's somewhat accurate, and also because this was a phrase. You're too young to remember this, I think, but I'm not too young to remember. I mean, you probably do remember. In 2009, yes? You were born in 2000.
No. I'm old enough I was in college in 2009. I do remember this, and I actually wanted to ask you about it because I was questioning whether that was the terminology we want to use. So please go ahead and say where that came from, and then my question.
Yeah, so I'll explain the backstory, and then I'll explain what this actually is. But Sarah Palin in 2009, in an effort to smear the Affordable Care Act as the Obama administration was attempting to pass it, seized on one small detail about it, which was about, I think, Medicare patients having to go up in front of a panel to argue for certain end-of-life care. Or I don't know exactly what it was, but Sarah Palin seized on this, called those death panels, said, I don't want my family or anyone I love having to stand in front of a death panel. And this phrase got an enormous amount of traction. And every Republican, as they do, they're very good at this, seized on it. And it became this thing that almost killed the ACA completely. And they did successfully kill that provision, which I still, again, I'm not entirely clear even what that provision was, but I suspect it's something that probably would have helped people, and it's gone because she got rid of it. But neither way, what we
Sarah
remember
Palin is also gone from the public view.
from the public view, right? I mean, we hope she will not return. But yes, she was really one of the early harbingers of this kind of just outrageous behavior and sort of amplifying these false talking points. So Dan Pfeiffer's suggestion, though, was, look, what's good for the goose is good for the gander. They have introduced this crazy Medicare thing, and it really is awful. And so why not use the same phrase to get people's attention and sort of point to where this could go? Now, having said that, right now, what this pilot program is not technically a death panel, but there is a real danger. And I'll explain to you in a second what it is, but the big danger of it is that it's a pilot program. And that if it is successful, if Republicans like what it does, which is basically start to sort of push Medicare closer to privatization and also cut back on government spending on healthcare, that they're going to expand it. And that is why we really are looking at what could turn out to be some form of death panel, some form of no, we will not cover your cancer medication or whatever. So that's the origin of the name. Does that answer your question?
It did. I was just wondering if death panel was like a conservative scare tactic term and whether we're now co-opting it for our own use, which is fine if it's accurate.
That basically is, yes, that is all true. And I have mixed feelings about using it. But on the other hand, what's happening here is really sinister. So if it gets people's attention and focuses them on the ultimate outcome of this kind of policy, which is more people dying, then I think it is fitting and appropriate. So I'll explain basically for the viewers and for you, if I'm sure you probably do know most of this, but basically what this is it's a pilot program. It is being rolled out in Oklahoma, Texas, Ohio, Washington State. I've got them written down. Arizona and one other state. So it's 6 states. I'm missing one. Arizona, Texas, Arizona, Washington, New Jersey. And it's New Jersey. And it starts on January 1st of 2026. And basically what it is they're taking several procedures that are done by Medicare. And they're saying it's about 17 procedures to start. And what they're going to do is, instead of what usually happens with Medicare, the reason that Medicare is a great program and different than privatized health is because with Medicare, there's very little pre-authorization. Generally, if a doctor recommends a procedure, Medicare covers it. And that's what we love. That's what we want more of. Medicare for all, right? But what the Trump administration is doing is going in the opposite direction. They're saying we want to require pre-authorization we're going to start with 17 procedures and see how it goes. But it gets worse because who is doing the pre-authorization? Is it a doctor? Because that might be, no, it's not a doctor. It's AI. So what they're going to do, and it gets worse. It gets worse. There really is very death panelish. So AI is going to, these are AI companies. And I want to remind everybody, because it's always important to connect these dots. AI companies have donated massively to Donald Trump. The Trump campaign, his inaugural committee, they have shoveled money at him. This is payback, right? So what is going to happen is that the government is going to hire these AI companies to do these pre-authorizations, and they will make more money the more they deny. So they will be paid a percentage of the cost of the procedure they deny. So if you come to them and say, I need a skin graft, and that would cost, I don't know, $30,000, and they say, no, we don't think you actually need that procedure. They will make whatever percentage of that $30,000. So the more they deny, the more they make. That is a formula for mass denials. Not to mention, we already know that pre-authorization leads to less care, to denial of care, needed care. This is something that doctors hate, care providers hate. Pre-authorization is a disaster. So they're rolling this pilot out in these 6 states for, I don't remember how long, maybe 6 months. And then the real fear is that this is going to get expanded and that we are going to end up in a situation where everything requires pre-authorization, where AI, which, by the way, United Healthcare already using AI, and they have been found to be guilty of mass denials. They'll just deny everything. And then those who know will appeal, but not everybody is capable of that. We're talking about the elderly, right? Medicare goes to people who are 65 and older or younger people with disabilities. These are not people who have necessarily the resources and abilities to do these kinds of appeals, but they will be forced to.
Yeah. You need health literacy, you have to know how to appeal it. I think one of the most frustrating things to me about what you just described is that the burden is on the patient,
right?
Not on like the AI company. So there's so many horrible things about what you just described. But one thing that really, for some reason, is what pisses me off the most is that there's no mechanisms in place for these AI companies to be transparent about what their algorithms are.
No,
right? Is there
none.
anything in place that's like, you have to tell us how the algorithm's working to make these decisions? Is there any human moderator component in it where if the AI gives out a verdict that there's somebody checking it? Or are we just going with whatever the computer says, which now we know is like programmed to lean on rejecting people?
Right. My understanding is that if you appeal, it then goes to a doctor. But that the first round is all AI. So again, the burden is placed on the person waiting for the procedure, and also that's delays, right? So you appeal, then they have to wait for a doctor to be available. We know that they're firing people left, right, and center. So then you're waiting for a procedure that you need. I know somebody who has a back condition right now and has to get these injections in her back, the steroid injections. This is one of the procedures that is covered in this pilot. Steroid injections to the back. She gets incapacitated with pain, right? And she's on private insurance. So when she needs an injection, she makes an appointment. Within a couple of days, she gets it. This is a situation where you're incapacitated with pain, you're over 65, and you may have to wait months to get through all of that approval now. The AI turning you down, the doctor reviewing. It is exactly the opposite direction we want our healthcare to be moving.
Yeah. I think this is also a larger reflection on how the Trump administration feels about like our elderly, you know?
Yeah.
That they're doing so much work, sort of, to like increase the population. They want younger, healthier people. And that's a whole nother conversation for another day because they're not actually doing anything to make people healthier when they're younger of working age. But then on top of that, they're like entirely discarding our elder generations by making it impossible to get the care that you need.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that. And then you could also talk about what's happening with Social Security right now and these massive data leaks that we're seeing and the sort of destaffing of Social Security. It is a very galling attack on our senior citizens, on our disabled population. And yeah, there does feel like almost a eugenics angle to it, where it's just like you need to be young and healthy. And if you're female, you need to be reproducing. And if you're male, you need to be working. And like everybody else, we don't want to support you. And quite frankly, if you're a Democrat, we also don't want to support you. Yeah, So it's funny. I was reading this. I'm reading a book, or I just finished a book about the Dust Bowl, and the Depression in Oklahoma in the South. And
wait, so yes, this is what you read for fun?
Oh yeah, it was a great book too. It was so good.
Good God.
It's a page turner for me. I could not put it down. I know. I always think everybody thinks things like this are interesting, but I guess maybe not. But what I will say Yes, it's called the Worst Hard Time, and it was about that period of the Dust Bowl. Fascinating. But what we are reminded of is that in those days, in the 30s, they didn't have Social Security. They didn't have Medicare or Medicaid. People, if they got sick, or if they were elderly and could no longer work, they were out of luck if they didn't have family to take care of them. There was nothing for them until FDR came along and created these programs, and we take them for granted, and we shouldn't.
Mm-hmm.
The Trump administration is following in a long line of Republican lawmakers who have been desperate to get rid of them from the point of inception on. And right now, they are making more progress than I think any other Republican administration has in privatizing, defunding, destaffing, putting our data on an insecure cloud server in Social Security so that it's all out there for people to steal. Just a lack of respect for senior citizens that is really profound. The title of the book is The Worst Hard Time. It's by Timothy Egan. So just Google Timothy Egan book about the Dust Bowl. Absolutely fantastic. I get very enthusiastic about the books I'm reading. It exhausts my family. It really does. So it just was a great reminder that, like, we haven't always had this. We've had Social Security for less than 100 years. Medicare, Medicaid, these are very recent innovations, and they need to be tended and cared for. And what we're seeing right now is the opposite. We're seeing an administration that is tearing at them in a million small ways. And this is why we can call it a death panel.
Yeah.
Because where this ends is AI reviewing all medical procedures and just denying. And then by the time people can get that, appeal together, some of them will die.
Yeah. Well, we call it a death panel because that is the whole goal. Like, that is the Trump administration's goal of implementing this.
Yeah.
I also want to add some color to, like, you saying how far they're advancing things compared to the pace at which we've been able to advance things in progressive directions in past years. Part of the reason why Trump has been able to accelerate so many of all of his horrible policies, not just health related, but that's what you and I are concerned with, especially me working in public health all the time, is because he doesn't give a crap if what he's doing is legal or not. So he will just make the decision, pass an executive order, say this policy, and then let it get caught up in the courts for days, weeks, months, mostly years, so that the damage is done by the time a court has had the chance to say this is illegal.
Right.
It's not through any legitimate mechanisms or that he's doing things correctly. It's that he doesn't give a flip whether it's legal or not. And our court system takes so long that he's able to implement the plan before anyone can tell him no.
It is true. And the one thing I will say, though, I will say that the one thing that has been effective is massive, massive public outcry. And that's why I really want people to not give up on calling their representatives. I really want people to turn out and protest more. Because look what happened with Social Security. As bad as it is with Social Security, they wanted it to be much worse. There was a whole second round of, what is it called? RIF, reduction in force. They were going to lay off like 9,000 more people. And they were going to shut down a bunch of field offices. In fact, you may recall they listed on their website all the field offices they were shutting down. And people freaked out and they backed off. They backed off. Those field offices are still open. They are understaffed, but they're still there. They did not do that second round of firings. So what I'm hoping is that we get that kind of outrage around these death panels, that we get people saying, absolutely not are you going to have AI determining my health outcomes in Medicare.
Yeah.
But we need, that's the one thing that worked. I mean, we've seen it with Kilmar Abrego Garcia, who everybody said, that guy's never coming back. Now, his problems aren't over, but the noise we made matters. The noise we make matters a lot. As awful as things are, look at what's happening in Chicago. They fought back so hard that I really believe he is going to not send the National Guard in there. Like, it's organized people power works.
Yeah.
Even in DC, where they haven't left, we have seen the energy in your city. We saw it in Los Angeles, even though we were the first, so we were a little, caught off guard. But it's also such a huge city that, is a very different situation. But it works. I really want people to understand that, yeah, he is lawless. Yeah, he doesn't care at all about
Mhm.
Americans, about humanity, about science, about government spending. He doesn't care about that at all. Like, he cares about enriching his corporate buddies, period.
Mhm. Mhm.
But we care, and when we are loud, we can stop or slow a lot of this stuff. And that's all we can really hope to do right now. Keep those Social Security offices open long enough so that we can get, past this horrible era. And obviously, we're going to have to reimagine a lot of things. Everything is going to need to be rebuilt, but maybe we can rebuild some things in a really powerful, good new way. Maybe
Yeah.
we do start to get Medicare for all because we realize that for-profit medicine will always result in this kind of thing eventually.
Yeah. I mean, that is honestly the only silver lining that I can find out of what's going on today, out of what was really devastating for Pari and I when Roe v. Wade was overturned, is that, I hate when people say burn it all down, because a lot of people who say burn it all down don't have a plan for after that.
Right.
However, I do feel like it's kind of burning itself down right now because Trump is making America unlivable for
Yes.
most of us.
Yes.
Only way out of that is to build something better from the ashes.
Yes.
So I think it's like our only way out is to kind of hit rock bottom with what he's doing. And as long as we can sustain that, it's this silver lining that's keeping me going. I have to say that even though we're friends, a lot of times when I see you, it's on social media and it's watching your videos. And I love how you have been steadfastly committed to telling people to call their representatives. And I really appreciate that because you probably also acknowledge people are really tired of hearing that.
Yeah.
But you keep saying it and you keep slamming people with the congressional, like the Capitol switchboard and things like that, because currently, especially Republican lawmakers are more scared of Trump than they are of their own constituents. And so what you keep telling people is that we need to reverse that. That
Yes.
you need the Republican lawmakers to be more scared of their constituents than they are of Trump.
Yeah.
And what you have been able to galvanize, and what a lot of progressive creators have been able to galvanize, when people slam those phone lines or show up at protests and like show their face that they are not standing for this, that scares Republican lawmakers. And
Yeah.
that's the only way that we're going to get through to people. But we can't get tired of calling our representatives.
Yeah.
So
No.
I just love that you stick with that consistent message, because it's like one of the only tools that we have, no matter how tired we get,
Yes.
to continue to make a change.
Yeah. Yeah. Calling our representatives and, like you said, showing up to protests and showing up to town halls. Again, people showed up to town halls and have been consistently over the last several months, to the extent that most Republicans won't even do them anymore because
Mhm.
they know what they're going to hear. And one of the things people shouted about the loudest, again, was Social Security. And that's why they have really pulled back on attacking that agency more than they've pulled back on any other agency. They've
Mhm.
pulled back on attacking Social Security. And so, again, I want to remind people, yeah, we're very, very tired, but like, your loud voices are very necessary. You don't have to be the loud voice every day. We
Mhm.
all get to take our turn. It's like a chorus where everybody sings and people breathe at different times. But it is really important that we all go out and raise our voices, because if you've got a Democratic representative, they need to know that you have their back, that you're
Mhm.
grateful for the work they're doing, that you see them and you want them to push even harder. And if you have a Republican, people say, oh, what's the point? Ted Cruz, there's no point in calling him. But there's always a point. Even
Mhm.
if they're not going to do the things we're going to ask for, if everybody stops calling, imagine what they'll do. They'll be like, my constituents don't care. They never call me. I'm going to do whatever I want, instead of like, well, I'm going to vote for this, but I'm going to kind of hide and lie about it. And then I'm not going to vote for that other thing because my constituents will have my head. Like, we really don't know the impact. All I can say, and I'll close with this, is that every time I've met with a lawmaker of either party, full disclosure, I've never met with a lawmaker from the Republican Party, but I just had to say that. They all say, I always ask them, do our calls make a difference? And they say, you have no idea.
Yeah.
You have no idea. And it's true for our colleagues across the aisle as well. Keep calling. Keep
If
showing up at town halls. If you see your lawmaker at the UPS store or the dry cleaner, grab them and ask them, why are we having Medicare death panels? Really, use any moment you have. Tag them on social media and ask them about it. Just be relentless. That is
Yeah.
how we get through this.
Did you see, if you didn't see this video, I'm going to send it to you when we get off, but did you see the post about a woman who gave hell to a congressional member that she saw in like a coffee shop? He
No, I didn't.
recognized him, and it was a Republican. She just launched into him at top volume in front of the entire coffee shop, telling him that he was killing people with not supporting different health. I mean, she just went off, and I'm like, this is what we need. Show
Yes.
them no mercy, give them no peace.
Yeah.
And if not calling them, you're letting them off the hook. And we just can't let that happen. So
Public shaming is very important right now. I actually, when I was flying into DC like 6 months ago, I saw Bill Barr at the Reagan airport. And I sort of did a like, was that Bill Barr? And by the time I was sure it was him and I could remember his name. It was gone. But I've never forgiven myself for not yelling at him in public for the way he contributed to this situation. And I mean, he's not in office anymore, but like anybody who is in office who is a Republican, any chance you get, I don't care if it's an airplane, restaurant, any chance you get. Because they need to be held accountable for what they are doing right now is unforgivable.
Yeah.
And we need to let them know that. And it's very, very important. Peacefully, always, never endorse violence. Peacefully, but always let them know. Yes.
I also have a small Bill Barr, my own Bill Barr story that I'll close with, but it was actually Marjorie Taylor Greene. And this is just to share that we're all human. And even though we speak loudly online about a bunch of stuff, you're not always ready to like do it live in person. So I was at an event on the Hill a couple of weeks ago, and Marjorie Taylor Greene walked right past me. And I had my little like pro-choice, like pro-woman sign. And I have so many things in my head that I would love to tell Marjorie Taylor Greene at top volume. And it happened so quickly, I just wasn't ready. So I would like to beg everyone who listens to this podcast, the live, that you just prepare yourself a little spiel. If you ever cross paths with a Republican congressional member, practice your spiel and just be ready to launch it. Be ready to roll, because we should all be so lucky to have that opportunity to come face to face with somebody that we want to give a piece of our mind peacefully.
100%. 100%.
So,
although if they represent you, all the better. I mean, if it happens to be your lawmaker, so incredibly powerful to say, you represent me. And how dare you, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, but yes, of course, we might only have one chance. And when I was in D.C. once, and we'll stop with this, I ran into some aides for, who was it? It's a Democratic lawmaker who I knew had not co-sponsored the assault weapons ban. And they were giving me directions in the hallway to somewhere. And they said, oh, we're Senate staffers. We work for, what's his name? It was Maine. It was Angus King. And I was like, well, thank you so much for the directions. And would you please tell him to co-sponsor the assault weapons ban? I am horrified he hasn't yet. It was just like, look, man, they're here. I'm telling him. You got to grab your moments, y'all.
This has been lovely. It's so nice to see your face. Can you tell people where to find you?
Yes, it's been so nice to see your face, too. You can find me at Chopwood Carry Water Daily Actions on Substack or on all social media at Jess Craven 101. And the podcast is called Practivist Pod. And thank you guys all so much for being here. And Eve, thank you so much for having me. I love you. I love Perry. And I can't wait to do more work with you.
So now we all know about Medicare death panels.
Spread the word, guys. Spread the word. Not enough people know. Please keep talking about it.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Women in America. If you enjoyed it, share it with your network and follow us on social media at women_in America. See you next week.